The plasma bolt seared past Marcus Chun's left shoulder, leaving a smoking crater in the durasteel wall behind him. He rolled behind a cargo container, his rifle already tracking toward the source of the shot. The Kepler station docking bay had erupted into chaos. Traders and passengers scattering as blaster fire lit up the grimy industrial space. 3 shooters, professional-grade weapons. He muttered into his cum, updating Captain Dex aboard their smuggling vessel. This isn't some random gang hit. Marcus had been here for a simple job escort a shipment of rare crystals to a buyer in the Outer Rim. Easy money for a former military contractor turned freelance gun for hire. But when he'd spotted the blue-skinned woman being cornered by armed men in expensive armor, something in her defiant stance had triggered his protective instincts. Now he was pinned down in a firefight, wondering why he'd gotten involved. The woman definitely not human, with striking cobalt skin and silver-white hair that seemed to shimmer with its own light, had taken cover behind a loading crane. Her clothing was torn and bloodied, suggesting she'd already been running for a while. But her posture remained regal, unbowed despite the circumstances. "Behind you," she called out, her voice carrying an exotic accent that made Marcus's pulse quicken. He spun, catching sight of a 4th gunman flanking from the right. Marcus's shot took the man's center mass, dropping him before he could fire. The woman nodded approvingly, then surprised Marcus by producing a small energy pistol from somewhere in her torn robes. "Can you shoot?" Marcus called across the bay. Instead of answering, she leaned out and placed 3 precise shots into one of the remaining attackers. The man's armor sparked, and he crumpled. Professional training, Marcus noted with approval. 2 left, the woman said, reloading her weapon with practiced efficiency. "They're trying to box us in." Marcus studied the tactical situation. The remaining gunmen had taken positions that would let them crossfire on anyone trying to escape through the main exit. But there was a maintenance shaft behind the crane that might offer another way out. "What's your name?" he asked, already formulating a plan. "Zara," she replied, not taking her eyes off their attackers. "And you're either very brave or very foolish to get involved in this, Marcus. And it's probably both." He gestured toward the maintenance shaft. "Can you make it to that opening if I lay down covering fire?" Zara glanced at the route he'd indicated, calculating distances and angles. "Yes, but what about you?" "I'll be right behind you." "Go on my mark." Marcus checked his weapons charge. Full power. Maybe 30 shots left. It would have to be enough. He popped up and began rapid firing at both remaining positions, forcing the gunman to take cover. "Now!" Zara moved with fluid grace, despite her injuries, covering the distance to the maintenance shaft in seconds. Marcus followed, diving through the opening just as return fire sparked off the metal frame. The shaft was cramped and poorly lit, forcing them to crawl single file through the station's maintenance tunnels. Zara led the way, moving confidently through the maze of pipes and conduits. "You know this place?" Marcus asked, keeping his voice low. "I've studied the schematics of most major stations," she replied. "It's a survival skill where I come from." They emerged into a secondary docking bay, quieter, but still bustling with late shift workers. Zara pulled up the hood of her cloak, trying to conceal her distinctive features. But her unusual height and grace made her stand out anyway. "My ship's in Bay 7, Marcus said. "We can—" "No," Zara interrupted, grabbing his arm. Her touch sent an unexpected jolt through him, electric and warm. "They'll be watching your vessel. They know you helped me." Marcus frowned. "Then how did you get here?" "Your ship?" "Destroyed. I barely escaped in a life pod." Her expression darkened. "They've been hunting me for days." "Who's they? And more importantly, why?" Zara hesitated, studying his face as if trying to judge his character. Something in his steady gaze must have satisfied her, because she sighed and lowered her hood slightly. "My name is Zara Keth, third daughter of the royal house of Zarian. Those men were sent to kill me." Marcus blinked. Zarian was a powerful world in the Mid-Rim, known for its advanced technology and complex political alliances. Royal assassination attempts were definitely above his pay grade. "Well," he said after a moment, "that explains the professional grade weapons." A small smile tugged at the corner of Zara's mouth. "You're taking this rather calmly. Lady, I've seen enough of the galaxy to know that royal families have royal problems. The question is what you want to do about it. I need to get off this station. My sister's ... double quotes," she trailed off, worry creasing her features. "I need to know if they're safe." Marcus made a decision that would change his life forever. "There's a smuggler named Captain Dex who owes me a favor. His ship can take us wherever you need to go, no questions asked. Why would you help me? You don't even know me." Marcus looked into her eyes, a striking shade of violet that seemed to hold depths he could lose himself in. "Maybe I want to." The moment stretched between them, loaded with possibility. Zara's hand was still on his arm, her touch burning through his jacket. He found himself leaning slightly closer, drawn by something he couldn't name. "Zara," he began, but footsteps echoed from the direction they'd come. Their pursuers had found the maintenance shaft. "This way," Zara whispered, pulling him deeper into the maze of docking bays. They ran through the industrial corridors, their footsteps echoing off metal walls. Behind them, Marcus could hear shouted orders and the distinctive whine of energy weapons charging. Their hunters were getting closer. Captain Dex's ship, the Wandering Star, sat in a dimly lit bay at the station's outer edge. The aging freighter looked like it had seen better decades, but Marcus knew it was faster than it appeared. "Dex," Marcus called into his comm. "Fire her up. We're coming in hot." "Marcus, what have you gotten yourself into?" came the gravelly reply. "I'll explain later. Just be ready to break dock the second we're aboard." They reached the ship's boarding ramp just as their pursuers rounded the corner behind them. Energy bolts sizzled through the air as Marcus and Zara scrambled up into the ship. "Go, go, go," Marcus shouted. The Wandering Star lifted off with a roar of engines, leaving Kepler Station rapidly shrinking behind them. In the ship's small passenger compartment, Marcus finally got a good look at Zara in proper lighting. She was beautiful in a way that transcended human standards, tall and lithe, with aristocratic features and that mesmerizing blue skin that seemed to shimmer with inner light. But it was her eyes that captivated him, intelligent and fierce, holding secrets he suddenly wanted to unlock. "Thank you," she said softly. "You saved my life. What happens now?" Marcus asked, settling into the seat across from her. Zara looked out at the stars beginning to appear as they left the station's traffic lanes. "Now I need to find my sisters and discover who wants the daughters of Zarian dead." She turned back to him, and Marcus felt that electric connection again, stronger this time. Whatever he'd gotten himself into, he was committed now. The woman before him was dangerous, royal, and completely outside his usual world. He wouldn't have it any other way. As the Wandering Star jumped to hyperspace, Marcus had no idea that his simple act of heroism had set in motion events that would bind his fate to Zara's in ways he couldn't imagine. The hunt was just beginning. 3 days aboard the Wandering Star had given Marcus time to learn more about Zara Keth, and what he'd discovered both fascinated and troubled him. She was brilliant, speaking 7 languages fluently and possessing an encyclopedic knowledge of interstellar politics. She was also clearly trained in combat, moving with a warrior's grace despite her royal upbringing. But it was the quieter moments that drew him in, the way she hummed softly while tending to her injuries, how her eyes lit up when she talked about her sisters, the gentle way she touched his hand when thanking him for small kindnesses. They'd taken refuge in an abandoned mining station on the edge of the Helix Nebula, a place Captain Dex assured them was off all official charts. The old facility still had power and life support, making it a perfect temporary hideout while they planned their next move. The royal court of Zarian has many enemies, Zara explained as they sat in the station's observation lounge, watching the nebula's swirling colors paint the darkness. But this feels different, more personal. Marcus studied her profile in the ethereal light. How so? The assassination attempts began right after my father announced our betrothal contracts. Her jaw tightened. Someone doesn't want the daughters of House Keth to marry. Betrothal contracts? Zara turned to face him, her violet eyes reflecting the nebula's glow. Political marriages. It's how royal houses maintain alliances. My sisters and I were all promised to different worlds' nobility. Something cold settled in Marcus's stomach. Were? I ran away the night before my wedding ceremony. She looked back out at the stars. I couldn't go through with it. The man my father chose. He saw me as property, nothing more. Marcus found himself leaning closer. And your sisters? Naya was supposed to marry a Centaurian prince next month. Vera's ceremony was planned for the year's end. Worry creased her features. If someone is targeting us to disrupt these alliances ... double quotes, an alarm chimed softly through the station. Marcus was on his feet instantly, hand moving to his weapon, but Zara placed a calming touch on his arm. It's them, she said with relief flooding her voice. My sisters. The docking bay doors cycled open to reveal a sleek courier ship with Zarian royal markings. Two figures emerged, and Marcus understood immediately why Zara had been so worried about them. The first woman was tall like Zara, but with silver-toned skin that caught the light like polished metal. Her hair was white as starlight, braided in an elaborate style that suggested military discipline. She moved with predatory grace, her hand resting on the grip of an energy blade at her hip. The second was younger, probably barely into adulthood by human standards, with skin so pale it was almost translucent blue. Her hair was darker, a deep midnight color that contrasted beautifully with her ethereal features. Unlike her sisters, she seemed more curious than cautious as she took in their surroundings. Naya! Vera! Zara rushed forward, and the three sisters embraced with obvious relief and affection. When we heard about the attack on your convoy, then, silver-skinned woman Naya said, her voice carrying a slight rasp that suggested she'd seen combat. We feared the worst. I got your message through the old channels, added Vera, the youngest. Though finding you out here took some creative navigation, Marcus hung back, suddenly feeling like an intruder on their reunion. But Zara turned and beckoned him forward. Sisters, this is Marcus Chun. He saved my life on Kepler Station. Naya's eyes immediately cataloged him from head to toe, assessing threat levels and combat capability. Vera's gaze was gentler, but no less evaluating. A human, Naya observed neutrally. Military background? Former contractor, Marcus replied. Currently freelance. He's been protecting me, Zara added, and something in her tone made both sisters look at her more sharply. Protecting, Vera repeated thoughtfully. How thorough has this protection been? Marcus caught the undercurrent in the question, but didn't understand its significance. Zara, however, colored slightly, her blue skin taking on a deeper shade. Vera, she warned. I'm just asking, the youngest sister said innocently. After all, you've been alone with him for days, ... What's she getting at? Marcus asked, looking between the three women. The sisters exchanged glances laden with meaning. Naya sighed and moved to a nearby control panel, activating privacy screens around the docking bay. Marcus, Zara said carefully, there are aspects of Zarian culture I haven't explained to you yet, such as our bonding laws, Vera said cheerfully, settling into a nearby chair as if preparing for entertainment. Bonding laws? Marcus repeated. Naya took a more direct approach. Have you touched my sister? Intimately? Marcus felt heat rise in his cheeks. The previous night, alone in the station's small quarters, he and Zara had shared more than just conversation. It had started innocently, her thanking him again for the rescue, standing close enough that he could feel her warmth. When she'd looked up at him with those incredible violet eyes, he'd been lost. The kiss had been electric, filled with days of building attraction and the intimacy of shared danger. It had led to gentle touches, whispered confessions, and eventually to Zara falling asleep in his arms. That's personal, he said finally. Not anymore, it isn't, Naya said grimly. What do you mean? Marcus looked to Zara for explanation, but she seemed unable to meet his eyes. Vera leaned forward excitedly. Oh, this is going to be interesting. Zara, you didn't tell him about the resonance bond? The what? Marcus's voice sharpened. Zara finally looked at him, her expression a mixture of guilt and something that might have been hope. In Zarian royal tradition, when an unmarried daughter of the blood creates a physical bond with someone through intimate contact, it creates a psychic and legal connection, Naya finished. Not just with her, but with all unmarried sisters in the bloodline. Marcus stared at them. Come again? It's an ancient law designed to prevent political manipulation through isolated seduction, Mara explained, clearly enjoying his shock. If someone wanted to gain influence through one sister, they'd have to accept responsibility for all of them. You're saying ... Marcus sat down heavily. You're saying I'm bonded to all three of you? Congratulations, Naya said dryly. You're now legally the consort protector of the royal daughters of Zarian. Marcus looked at Zara, feeling something between betrayal and disbelief. You knew this would happen. I ... Zara's voice was barely a whisper. I hoped you'd understand. Understand what? That kissing you would make me some kind of... What? Husband to all three of you? Consort protector is more accurate, Vera said helpfully. It's actually quite an honor. Most men would have been told beforehand. Marcus stood, pacing to the viewport. Outside, the nebula continued its eternal dance, beautiful and distant. Marcus, Zara said, moving closer. I should have told you, but ... double quotes. But what? But I was afraid you'd leave. Her honesty cut through his anger like a blade. And I couldn't bear that. He turned to study her face, seeing vulnerability there that her royal training couldn't hide. Why? Because for the first time in my life, I felt like someone saw me. Not the princess, not the political asset, not the bargaining chip. Just me. The silence stretched between them while Naya and Vera watched with obvious interest. So what does this mean, exactly? Marcus asked finally. It means you're bound to all three of us, Naya said. Our lives, our protection, our intimate needs are now your responsibility. And in return? Marcus asked, though he suspected he already knew. In return, you have the full protection and resources of House Keth, Vera said. Plus, you get 3 incredibly attractive and talented wives. Vera. Zara protested. What? It's true. I mean, look at us. The youngest sister gestured to herself and her siblings. We're quite a catch. Despite everything, Marcus found himself almost smiling at her confidence. And if I refuse this ... bond? The temperature in the room seemed to drop. Naya's hand drifted toward her weapon. The bond cannot be broken once formed, she said quietly. Attempting to abandon bonded royal daughters is considered high treason. The penalty is death. However, Vera added quickly, accepting the bond comes with considerable ... benefits. She moved closer, and Marcus caught a subtle scent from her skin, something floral and intoxicating. When she placed her hand on his arm, He felt the same electric jolt he'd experienced with Zara. The resonance bond works both ways, she explained softly. We're connected to you now, just as you are to us. We can feel your emotions, your needs, and you'll feel ours. Marcus looked from Vera to Naya to Zara, 3 beautiful, dangerous, complicated women who were apparently now his responsibility, whether he wanted it or not. This is insane, he said. Most of the best things in life are, Zara replied, moving to his other side. When both sisters were touching him, the psychic connection intensified, and he could indeed feel something emotions that weren't his own, desire and affection and hope flowing through the bond. Naya remained apart, watching with predator's eyes. The choice is yours, Marcus-chun. Accept the bond willingly, and we'll protect you as fiercely as you protect us. Fight it, and you'll spend whatever brief time you have left running from Zirion justice. Marcus closed his eyes, feeling the weight of 3 pairs of eyes on him. When he opened them again, he looked directly at Zara. You should have told me. I know, she whispered. I'm sorry. But, he continued, and saw hope flare in her violet eyes, I meant what I said about protecting you. All of you, apparently. Vera clapped her hands together excitedly. So you accept? Marcus took a deep breath, knowing his life had just taken another impossible turn. Do I have a choice? There's always a choice, Naya said, finally stepping closer. But some choices are wiser than others. When she placed her hand on his shoulder, completing the circle of contact, Marcus felt the bond solidify in ways he couldn't describe. It was overwhelming and intimate and terrifying and wonderful all at once. Welcome to the family, Vera said with a grin. Marcus looked at the 3 extraordinary women surrounding him and realized that despite everything, he couldn't imagine being anywhere else. The bond was sealed. There was no going back now. The attack came at dawn. Ship-time. Marcus jolted awake to the sound of proximity alarms screaming through the abandoned mining station. The resonance bond immediately flooded him with the sisters' emotions, Zara's sharp alertness, Naya's cold battle readiness, and Vera's spike of fear quickly suppressed by determination. 4 ships. Naya's voice crackled through the comm system. She was already at the station's sensor array. Military grade, no identification markers. They found us. Marcus rolled out of the narrow bunk in the quarters he'd been sharing with Zara, grabbing his rifle and tactical vest. Through the bond, he felt Zara's worry not for herself, but for him. How long until they reach us? He asked, pulling on his boots. 12 minutes. Vera's voice replied from the communications center. But Marcus, there's something else. I'm picking up a transmission. The station speakers crackled to life, carrying a gravelly voice that made Marcus's blood run cold. Princess Zara Kef, I am Jackson Vore, and I've been hired to bring you and your sisters home. Surrender now, and I promise you won't be harmed. Marcus had heard that name in mercenary circles, Jackson. Vore was a Corellian bounty hunter with a reputation for never failing to collect his target. He was also known for his flexible interpretation of unharmed. Vore, Naya spat over the comm. I should have known. He's been tracking royal fugitives for decades. Can we run? Marcus asked, already knowing the answer. Their ships are faster, Zara replied, appearing in the doorway. She dressed quickly in form-fitting combat gear that emphasized her lithe figure. And they've positioned themselves to cut off all escape routes. Through the bond, Marcus felt her making a decision that sent ice through his veins. No, he said firmly. Whatever you're thinking, no. Zara looked at him with those violet eyes he'd come to love. I won't let them take my sisters because of my choices. If you surrender, they'll kill you the moment you're off station, Marcus interrupted. And then they'll come for Naya and Vera anyway. He's right, came a new voice from the corridor. A woman Marcus didn't recognize stepped into view middle-aged. With graying hair, and the kind of face that suggested she'd seen too much of the galaxy's darker side. Jackson Vor's contracts rarely involved bringing anyone back alive. Tess. Vera's delighted voice echoed from the cone. I was wondering when you'd show up. The woman Tess smiled grimly. When I heard the Keth sisters were being hunted, I had to investigate. I'm Tess Morrow, she said to Marcus. Former intelligence operative, current concerned citizen. How did you get aboard without triggering sensors? Naya demanded, peering in the corridor with weapons drawn. The same way Vor's people probably will in about 10 minutes. Tess replied. The old maintenance tunnels. This station has more holes than a Rigelian cheese wheel. Marcus felt the bond pulse, with urgent communication between the sisters, a rapid exchange of thoughts and emotions he was only beginning to understand. What he did catch was their trust in this Tess Morrow, and a plan forming that involved considerable risk. Tell me you have a way out of this, he said. I have a ship, Tess replied. Small, fast, and very hard to track. But we'll have to reach it, and Vor's already landed boarding parties. As if summoned by her words, the distant sound of cutting tools echoed through the station's hall. They were coming in through multiple entry points. Naya, Vera defensive positions, Zara commanded, and Marcus felt her slip into what he was beginning to recognize as her tactical mindset. Marcus with me. We're going to... No, he said, cutting her off. Through the bond, he projected his own tactical assessment. You three stick together. I'll create a distraction, draw them away from the route to Tess's ship. Absolutely not, all three sisters said simultaneously, their voices harmonizing in a way that would have been beautiful under different circumstances. Marcus, Zara said, moving closer, the bond means we're stronger together. Separated, we're all vulnerable. She's right, Naya added, checking her weapons with professional efficiency. The resonance bond isn't just emotional, it enhances our physical capabilities. When we're in proximity, Marcus was about to argue when he felt it a surge of energy and awareness. That seemed to sharpen his reflexes and extend his senses. Through the bond, he could feel exactly where each sister was positioned, their emotional states, even their tactical intentions. That's new, he murmured. The bond strengthens under stress, Vera explained, her voice coming from 3 directions at once as she moved through the station's corridors. Especially when we're all focused on the same goal. The sound of breaching charges echoed through the station. They were out of time. Tess, lead the way, Marcus said, settling into combat mode. Sisters, stay close and watch the crossfires. They moved through the station like a unit that had trained together for years. The bond allowed them to anticipate each other's movements, to communicate without words. When Vor's mercenaries appeared at a corridor intersection, Marcus knew exactly where to lay covering fire, while Naya flanked left and Vera provided overwatch. From an elevated position, the first engagement was over in seconds, leaving 3 unconscious attackers and the team unharmed. Not bad for a human, Naya said, and through the bond Marcus felt her approval like warm sunlight. I have my moments, he replied, but his attention was already shifting to the next threat. The enhanced awareness the bond provided was showing him movement patterns. Throughout the station, they fought their way through 2 more encounters, each time working with impossible coordination. Marcus found himself moving in perfect synchronization with the sisters, their combat styles complementing each other in ways that defied explanation. But Jackson, Vor hadn't built his reputation by underestimating his targets. Ambush, Marcus said, feeling the trap through the bond before he saw it. 3 levels up, thermal charges set to channel us into. The explosion rocked the station, sending them tumbling as a section of corridor collapsed. When the dust settled, Marcus found himself separated from the others by a wall of twisted metal and debris. Marcus! Zara's voice came through the cone, tight with concern. I'm alive, he replied, checking for injuries. But I'm cut off from you. Through the bond, he felt their distress and determination in equal measure. But he also felt something else. Vera was afraid, not of the attackers, but of something she hadn't told the others. "Vera," he said quietly into his comb. "What aren't you saying?" A pause. Then, barely audible, "Jackson Vore isn't just here for the bounty. He's working for someone in the royal court. Someone who knows about the bond." The implications hit Marcus like a physical blow. If someone in Zirian's government wanted the sisters eliminated, then nowhere in civilized space would be safe for them. Who? Naya's voice was deadly quiet. "I don't know," Vera replied. "But they know about Marcus now. About all of us." Marcus heard footsteps approaching his position-heavy boots, multiple contacts. Vore's people had tracked him down. "I've got company," he said, raising his rifle. "Keep moving to Tess's ship. We don't leave family behind," Zara said fiercely. "And I'm not asking you to," Marcus replied. "I'm asking you to trust the bond." He closed his eyes, feeling the connection that linked him to the 3 extraordinary women who had become his world. Through it, he projected his plan risky, but it might work. When Vore's mercenaries rounded the corner, they found Marcus waiting with his hands raised in apparent surrender. "Smart choice," the lead mercenary said, weapon trained on Marcus's chest. "Jackson will want to talk to you before we collect the princesses." "Actually," Marcus said, feeling the sisters moving into position through the bond, "I was hoping we could talk to him." The coordinated assault came from 3 directions at once. Naya dropped through a ventilation shaft behind the mercenaries. Vera's precise shots disabled their weapons from an impossible angle, and Zara appeared through what had seemed like a solid wall, moving like liquid death. In moments, it was over. "Show off," Marcus said to Zara as she helped him to his feet. "You taught me that move," she replied with a smile that made his heart skip. "I never taught you to phase through walls. That's a Zarian thing," Vera said cheerfully, appearing beside them. "We have our secrets." They reached Tess's ship without further incident, but as they strapped in for departure, Marcus realized their problems were far from over. "Where do we go now?" he asked as the small vessel lifted off. "If the royal court is compromised, we go to the one place they won't expect," Zara said, her hand finding his. Through the bond, he felt her resolve, and something deeper, a love that had grown beyond simple attraction into something unbreakable. "Which is?" "Home," Naya said grimly. "We go back to Zarian and find out who's trying to destroy our family." As Tess's ship jumped to hyperspace, leaving the mining station and Jackson Vore far behind, Marcus looked at the 3 women who had become his partners in every sense of the word. Through the bond, he felt their determination, their trust in him, and their love, each different but equally powerful. Whatever waited for them on Zarian, they would face it together. The hunt was far from over, but now the hunted were ready to become the hunters.